DT, welcome, mate. Really appreciate your time, pal.
That's
I'm
all,
not going
mate.
to lie, mate. You probably are the best looking one that we've had on so far. I'm not going to kid to
Ah,
you, mate.
that's it.
Absolute,
It don't
mate.
happen
Look
by
at you,
mistake, does it? It's years of cocoa butter.
mate.
This is the
Mate,
maintaining.
listen, you're an absolute superstar. Look at you. But no, yeah, I really appreciate it, mate. We do have a structure, like we just literally spoke about backstage. Really, it might go off the cuff, mate. If it does, I mean, we had Kevin Wells, on last week, so that obviously went right out the window as you as you've obviously heard. But yeah, just tell us a bit about yourself, mate. Where did it all start for you? Did you start as a pro or did you start in the non-league?
So I was at where I started. I started with I'm a Nottingham lad, so I actually played for a local club called Pelican Colts in Bilborough. I think I played for the first ever Pelican Colts junior side. I only managed one season with Pelican, and then I was at Forest for 6 years, from the 90s all the way to YTS, and I didn't get offered a YTS because myself and James Perch were fighting for a right back position, and fortunate for Perch, he got a YTS, and then I sort of dropped into well, I was at Chesterfield for a couple of years after that, but they were going through administration problems, etc. So kind of dropped into non-league, sort of from the age of 17, really. My first men's football team was a Nottingham side called Dunkirk, which is, sort of applied my trade there for a good couple of years, and then I'd probably say, did well there, scored shed loads of goals, and then got a move to Shepshed Dynamo at the age of 18, and that's really where my sort of non-league journey started within sort of the old Unibond, which is now the Evo stick.
So obviously, when you was at Forest, then was you obviously like every kid would be? Was you deflated? Did you think about not, carrying on playing your football, or did you one of these people where look, you kind of
Yeah,
think
I
you want to
mean,
prove a point?
yeah, I mean, at the time when I get released from Forest, it absolutely it knocked me for six. I didn't have no interest in playing football because I was there. Like I said, I was a local lad, and throughout my time from the age of 9 to 16, I was known by my friends and quite known in the city for playing for Forest and being there,
Mm.
you know, several years, and then sort of when you get that rejection or you don't quite make it in it, and even at Forest, I mean, I went to Forest as a striker, which is where I applied my trade. But when I got released, I was released as a fullback, which is
Right.
it was quite disheartening for myself because I kind of shot myself in the foot because one game around under 14s, 15s, we were short of fullbacks, and I ended up doing a job at left back and did really well.
Mm.
So then that sort of stuck, and I ended up then playing fullback when I've always really wanted to play as a striker. So yeah, it did. It was disappointing, but I've always said football is my first love. Even now at the age of 35, I'll always be involved in football. So
Mm.
kind of initial disappointment was heartbreaking, but I went to Chesterfield from there and just sort of kicked on again, and didn't work out at Chesterfield, but we kept with it, stuck with it.
So who was your manager at Shepshed?
A gentleman called Pete McGurk, a blast from the past. Not many people know. So I think Pete lived in Long Eaton,
Right.
and I wasn't aware that in my last year at Dunkirk, that he'd been watching me. And at Dunkirk at the time, that was a men's football team that didn't pay anything, and he came in, and it was a proper old school gentleman. Pete, he came in for me with a couple of months of the season, but Dunkirk at the time were challenging for the league title, was in a couple of cup finals, and he just said, I want to sign you, but out of respect to Dunkirk, I want you to finish the season with them, and then you come and do a full pre-season and sign for us, and that's exactly what I did. Yeah,
Mm.
it was a great man manager, Pete. Really respect
So
it.
at 17, 18, then what type of character was you? Because obviously I've seen you on Twitter. You're a very Liverpool character now. Everyone seems to love DT, which brilliant. But was you that type of person back then, or has it just come across, over the years? As you get more experience, do you get more outgoing, or do you know what I mean?
I don't think I've changed. obviously from a maturity level, I think for the people that know me or people that have played against me, I've always backed my own ability, and I've always gone into every game as a striker expecting to score. So that sometimes may come across as cocky or arrogant. Not bothered. My job was always to score goals, and I prided myself that I would go with, whether it was playing bottom of the league or top of the league, I'm backing myself to score. And that was from the, at Shepshed. Well, not funny story. I mean, at Shepshed, I scored on the first game of the season. I didn't score my next goal until January. So for myself, it was a really, really, in terms of goal droughts, it's the worst I've ever had. Going for 3-4 months. I'd taken the step up by 4 leagues.
Right.
Obviously, then as a 17-year-old kid, 4 leagues up, you sort of doubting your own ability. But, by the end of the season, I'd scored 33 goals. So the second half of the season, once I got going, and that's, when I look at the standard of football back then, the old Udibon, that's when the likes of Fleetwood were in the league, Kendall's, Woodley Sports in Manchester. So it wasn't like how the Evo stick is now, where there's a West and there's an East. It was literally the best 24 teams at step 3, step 4. And, even strikers, I used to sort of, towards the back end of the season, Aaron O'Connor, who plays at Carlton with us now. We had Gary Bradshaw at North Ferriby, was always smacking goals. You had Ross Hannah, you had Vil Powell. They were proper, what I class as proper strikers. None of the pretenders now around. Everyone gets like 20 goals now, and they think that they've made it. These guys were scoring 30, 40 league goals every season consistently. So that was my mate. Going in at 17, it was about learning my trade, getting to know that standard of football. But towards the back end of the season, like I said, I scored 30 odd goals, and to be in the top 10 amongst some of those goal scorers, it just gave me the belief and confidence that I can do that on a consistent basis.
You must have been making some noise at 17, scoring that many goals. You know what I mean? Was there a lot of interest in the clubs?
No, which is it's something that's probably been a head scratcher for me, that throughout my career, I've always scored, 20, 25 plus, but I don't know whether it's been some of the sides I played for, at Shepshed at the time. I mean, like I said, I scored 30 odd goals, but Shepshed were like lower off the table. Our aim was to survive. So I don't know whether it was because I was playing for Shepshed Dynamo that I didn't really get any interest. I mean, off the back of Shepshed, I was at Shepshed for a couple of years, but then I signed for Hucknall Town, who was in the old Conference North. But that was a bit of a disaster move, to be honest with you. I signed for Andy Legg at the time. Old Andy Legg, who's played for Notts County, but I think it was his first. He was a player, but then ended up being player manager. So he ended up just bringing in ex-pros, and at the time we had big Gary Ricketts at Hucknall. So for myself to get a regular opportunity in the game time that I wanted, it didn't really work out for me. But like I said, I've not regretted any move that I've done with football. I think with football, you've got, like I said, I've always backed myself, and I've always wanted to play at the highest level possible. So
obviously at Hucknall, then, was it you and Gary Ricketts up top? Did you ever play alongside him?
I was only at Hucknall. I played for Hucknall for 3-4 games. 3-4 games at max. Yeah, I was at Shepshed, and I left Shepshed to play for Hucknall. Funny, and on my debut, was played. I never forget this day. On my debut, we played Lee RMI, I think it was. Back in the day, and was winning 2-0. And Legg has gone to me, Daryll, I'm going to bring you on. I was like, I'm buzzing, thinking, right, let's go. Where we go? Because I'm going to play you right wing back. I was like, oh fuck, right wing back. I was thinking, you know what? 20 Conference North. I just want to make my debut. I want to come on and play. Winning 2-0. They're on the attack. Ball comes over. I go to kick it out for a corner. Put it in bottom corner. They won 3-2.
Oh no!
Ended up losing the game 3-2.
Mate.
And from there, I went to Barrow the following Saturday. Freezing cold day in January. Didn't get any minutes, and then my current gaffer, Tommy Brookbanks, at the time, Carlton were in the old Northwest Counties. And I think 3 went up, and Tommy just said to me, Daz, you know, you're wasting your time. Not not in so many words. He said, you know, you're a striker. They're playing you out of position. We're trying to get promoted to the Unibond. Will you come and sign for us at Carlton? And at the time, you know, I'd never worked with Tommy before, but he'd known about me from, you know, my days at Shepshed and Dunkirk. Sorry. And at the time, it just felt like the right move for me. And I think we ended up getting promoted that season with Carlton. Scored quite a few goals, and ended up having a good 2.5 years at Carlton Town back then.
Wowzers. So that was what, when you was 20, 21?
Yeah, so that would have been, we actually looked at that the other day, and I had a photo, I think that was 2007. We got promoted to the Evo stick with Carlton. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason I'm right back at Carlton now, is because the same reason back then. You know, Tommy, one of the best managers I've ever had in terms of his man management. He ain't got a tactic in him, to be honest with you. He's just, you know, if you score 4, we'll score 5. But his man management and the way he treats his players is just sort of second to none. And at the time, I've always said throughout my years of playing football, my first stint at Carlton Town is by far the most enjoyable 2.5, 3 years I've ever had in football, because you know, I've made some lifelong friends from that squad of players over the last couple of years. And it wasn't like, it's even like now I lose my head in the fact that lads don't want to train. You know, I'm first team coach now, and it's sometimes an effort to get 14, 15 lads. At time at Carlton, literally everybody was in the age between probably 20 to 26. Every single training session, every single person was there without fail. Tuesday, Thursday, everybody's training. After the game, win, lose or draw, everyone brings clothes to the ground, everyone's out in town. And that was literally, you know, for 2.5 years, just the brotherhood that we had in that squad was something that, you know, when you're in it, you don't realise what it is until later on down the line, and you're a bit wiser. But yeah, it was brilliant. And as well, it was a good side as well. I mean, the first year in the Evo stick, I think we finished 10th. And the second year we finished in the playoffs. So it wasn't like it's just a group of lads and it's a bit of a laugher. We was actually quite successful as well on the pitch, which always helped.
Who's in that group then? Who's in that group for them?
So over time, I mean, one of my good friends, Ali Barcherini, who's first team goalie coach at Leeds United at the moment under Bielsa. We've got Fabian Smith, Fabs, who retired last year. We had Martin Ball, who's still at Carlton with us now. Grant Brinley, who's Grant from Legends. We just had loads of local lads, you know, but probably the best player in the team is a guy called Marquin Smith, who moved to Australia about 10 years ago. He was just an absolute tank, just literally covered every blade of grass. And then my old strike partner, Steve Chapp, he used to just run through walls, and I just used to get tap-ins. He'd come off with broken arms, broken ribs, and I'd come off of an hat trick, and that was just the understanding we had. Yeah, so it was a great side, and like I said, we've made some lifelong friends from that squad of players.
Who's the characters in there then? Who was like the lads who looked a bit of banter and always pissing about?
Me, I was always the class clown. I was always the one banter. I mean, I can remember separate to that when Tommy left Carlton Town, you know, he got run over and he got burgled. It was a milkman, and his milk float got stolen. Well, he got beat up by, I think, one of the lads bought me a burger, like a robber's outfit, and I went to training his first session back in that. So yeah, I was a class man, and I used to take the bits. I've even I can remember kegging Tom during a game after I scored an hat trick. Banter, but yeah, there was a few of us. I mean, one of the funniest people I've ever met is Grant Brinley by a long shot. Like he's got similar sort of banter as me. But yeah, there was just, like I said, to single out one specific person would be unfair to the rest of them, because we, like I said, we all got on really well and everybody chimed in. I mean, I got done the first game of the season because Tommy told me that it was shirt and tie. So I
Oh
rocked
no.
up in a white shirt, white tie, like an absolute virgin. First game of the season.
Oh no.
Lads are in tracksuits. My head was gone. First game of the season. And it's
No.
even worse because Gaffer's done me as well. It
Oh
was
mate.
absolute night. And even till now, even with the current squad of players we've got now at Carlton, he still talks about it. I think it's the only time he's ever done a bit of banter on me. First time I've been done. So first and last time, never again.
Yeah,
Never
that's brilliant. So obviously you're a character at 21. Was you like
again.
that in the dressing room at 17 at Shepshed then?
No, because I tell you, the one thing I will say, and it's the one thing that I say to younger lads now. I think me going to play for Shepshed was the best thing that happened for my career, and the fact
Mm.
that it was away from Nottingham, and I'd always played with my mates, and there was always that comfort of knowing people. Whereas I went into a bit of the unknown to Shepshed because I literally didn't know anybody apart from. They signed myself and a guy called Nathan Scott, who was from Nottingham. We signed both of us from Dunkirk. But other than Nathan, who was like a big brother to me at the time, I didn't know
Mm.
anyone. So as a young lad, you don't want to go in all guns blazing because I do it myself now, and everyone does it. If you go in too hard too early, everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Who's this?" You've got to sort of suss people out and suss the characters in the dressing room, what you can and can't get away with, and then just take it from there. But yeah, I mean, gradually over time throughout the season, confidence as well as a young lad. I think a lot of players get labelled with having chips on the shoulders if they don't socialise or they don't engage with
Mm.
other lads, and it might just be their particular character. But I'm one that, I don't think there've been many out of ex-teammates or people or clubs that I've played for that would say I was an egg or I was disruptive, because I wasn't. I always got on with everybody. I never really had a problem, and if I didn't like somebody, they would know about it because I'm like that. I'm not a fake person. If I didn't like you, you would know about it. But yeah, at 17, it was just a case of just finding my feet, finding my way, sort of my position within the squad,
Yeah.
and then taking it from there, really.
So after Carlton then, 2.5 years there, where did you go after that?
Yeah, so we lost. So we lost in the playoff semi-final at Carlton, and Retford United won the league that year. And Pete Duffield and Mick Godber were in charge at the time, and we had a bit of a rivalry, to be honest with you. They didn't really like us, and we didn't really like them. So when Pete rang me and said that he was interested in signing me, I was a bit apprehensive because I didn't like him. From what every encounter we had, the last time I saw him, one of our boys, we'd just beat him 1-0 and on Boxing Day, and one of our lads had handballed it for the winner. So he's going absolutely mad, and he's giving them an absolute rollicking in their changing rooms. And one of our lads has walked past and knocked on the door. So as he's knocked on the door and ran off, Pete's opened the door, and all their squad's staring at me because I'm just walking past the dressing room. I'm like,
oh no.
It's all kicks off. They've come piling out, but we're young lads. We're 20, so we're giving it that on the pitch. But when it's actually come to scrapping, everyone's absolute arses fell out. So Pete's grabbed hold of me. There's a bit of fisticuffs, nothing really happening. But then the next time I speak to him, he's saying he wants to sign me. So I was just like, where's this come from? So I had a chat with him, and ended up, as an ambitious lad, I thought, it's playing in the league higher, and which would have been, I don't even know if it was Evo-Stick or Unibond Prem. And he just said, want you and Mick to play up front, because Mick was still playing. And ended up, it was myself, Mick Godber and Neil Harvey up front. And, that we ended up, again, I think we just missed out on the playoffs in that season at Retford. But Retford was, I really enjoyed playing for Retford because, we was playing at, playing against FC United, playing at Old Berries Ground, playing in front of 3,500. So the grounds and, going to Boston, I'd never been to Boston United before. And on a Tuesday night, I'm playing at Boston, and there's 2,500 there. So the actual, football side of it, and, the experience of going and playing at against bigger clubs and bigger grounds, it shaped me sort of moving forward, because, once I got a taste of going and playing against bigger crowds, I thought I need that. I was always somebody that, the bigger the task or the bigger the battle, or, fans are calling me a wanker, that got me going. And I really enjoyed that. Whereas, my time at Carlton and Dunkirk and Shepshed, respectfully, you know, I might be playing against a couple of hundred people at a maximum. But yeah, it was a good time at Retford, but they ended up Retford was the only bad thing at Retford is they didn't pay us, and they didn't pay us on time. We had a lot of issues throughout that season where, you know, we had 3-4 months wages outstanding, and then it was sort of, if you don't come training or you don't play, we'll fine you a couple of weeks wages. So we're sort of held to ransom a little bit that we had to keep turning up. It was costing us money to turn up to football. We was enjoying it, but yeah, and then I did one season at Retford, and I thought, fuck that, I'm not doing that again, because you know, at the time, you know, as I said, I didn't have that much responsibility, but I could get, you know, half that money and get it every single week, cash in hand, more local. So that was my next move. And then where did I go from Retford? Signed for Hucknall Town. Hucknall Town with Tommy, because Tommy left Carlton and he got the Hucknall job because he's a Hucknall lad. So Hucknall, I think Hucknall had just been relegated to the Unibond Prem League themselves, and naturally, Gaffer called me, got a bigger club in Nottingham. It was a no-brainer. So I signed for him, but he brought in a coach with him that I didn't particularly get on with. I just felt like at that age I was 23, so I went a little kid. You couldn't bully me. He was just chatting shit every session, to be honest with you. We did one session where we was playing Colwyn Bay, and he set up the back four, and for an hour he stood on the touchline and he was just slinging balls in, because they had was it Dave Challoner? Dave Challoner used to play for Tranmere.
Yeah.
So for an hour I was practicing defending long throws, and literally for an hour he was chucking balls in. I was stood against centre halves and he was just coming over the back of my head, and I was like, are we gonna do something different? He was like, no, we're gonna do something different. In the end, I just got a ball and I booted it onto the ring road. I said, fuck this, I ain't doing it. He's like, I'll see you after the training session. I was like, all right, I'll see you after training session. Stood there in the dressing room. I was like, come on then. He was like, DT, come on, you're a senior player. You can't be doing that because it's undermining my session, this, that, and the other. And I was like, mate, we don't need to do for an hour. You fucking launching balls in the centre half, editing it. Like, it was bollocks. So in the end, I just sort of said to Tom, I'm not, you know, football is massive. You know, if I'm not enjoying it, my face says it. And if I'm not enjoying it, I've been told that I can not that I can be disruptive, but I have quite an effect on the dressing room if I'm not happy, that other lads pick up on it and it changes the energy. So I just, in the end, I had an honest conversation with Tommy, and I just said, I'm not enjoying it. I'm going to look elsewhere, and I ended up playing for Belper Town for a season and a half. So that I left there half season and played for Belper for a year and a half. It was good. I love Belper as a football club. Absolute great club. Even the stuff that they're doing now in terms of the ground regeneration and stuff like that. It was we weren't a great side. It was a mid-table side. So, you know, I scored plenty of goals for Belper. Did well. It was just a all right club. Didn't really pull up any trees at my time there. But then off the back of that, just randomly, and this was probably my biggest and the best move that I had. Kev Wilson coming for me at Ilkeston. So Ilkeston had just folded the season before, and I think they had their development squad, but there was they'd just been placed back into the Evo Stick, which was the same league as Belper. And at the time, you know, I knew players that had played for Ilkeston, but I didn't know what Ilkeston was until I'd signed for Ilkeston. And that I was at Ilkeston for just over a year and a half, a good year and a half, and by far the best club I've ever played for. The facilities,
fans are unbelievable, aren't they?
Yeah, mate. And this is before what they've even done now. I mean, I'm good friends with Cliffy, Mark Clifford, who's just left, and you know what him, Nally, and Dave Hilton have done for the club and Gandhi. You know, they're set up now just to rock. You know, there'll be a conference side in the next 5 or 6 years if they do it properly. But even when I joined, the owner was a gentleman called Dave Mansell. He sort of took on the project, and literally Kev said, "Daz, I want you to sign. You know, I know you're a proven goal scorer at this level. Bobless for that. My assistant manager's Darren Caskey, and straight away I'm just like, I'm with Kev Wilson, who's played for Chelsea. I'm with Darren Caskey, who I've watched on Match of the Day. No disrespect to any of the gaffers I played for before, even though Duffs have played for Sheffield United. Like these two, if I just shut my mouth and just listen to what they've got to say, it's only gonna, put me in better stead. And even I think we played Notts County the first pre-season game, and there was 4,500 there, and that's when it hit me. I was like, "Fuck, this club is an absolute joke." And yeah, that season, we got promoted the first season in the Evo stick. We got promoted and we went up through the playoffs. But it was that season there was just topsy-turvy. I mean, we had big Gary Ricketts, who me and Gaz played up front for the majority of that season. We had Laurie Wilson, centre mid, but one of the best players I played with, hands down. Loz, absolute ball, Rolls Royce of a midfielder. And Kev just literally, he just assembled players that he'd played with, who had playing from previously, and then just got a good mix of youth around that squad. And throughout the season, we just went from strength to strength. And in the playoffs, we beat Sheffield 7-0 in the semi-final at home. Because we finished, it was quite mad because we played with about 3 or 4 games left. There was ourselves, Carlton, and Grantham going for the league, but Grantham just went on a ridiculous run from about November, and I think they won 24 games on the trot, no draws, just literally churning out wins every single week. And you think, right, they've got a tough game, bang, just kept winning games. So it was the point where it was inevitable that they was going to win the league, and then it was between ourselves and Carlton. And at the time, I didn't really understand how the playoffs worked, but I don't know if you know Carlton Town. It's notoriously known for not having the greatest of pitches. It's all I can say. So, we're playing on a carpet every week, and we played Grantham last game of the season. Grantham already won the league. So I've got to give a guard of honour to some of my mates I played for at Carlton. I'm absolutely fucking fuming that I've got to give them a guard of honour. Ilkeston fans hate Grantham fans, so they've got nothing to play for, and they've ended up beating us 2-1 on the last game of the season. And because they beat us, Carlton finished second. We finished third on goal difference. So we're fuming now, thinking, right, if we both do our jobs, which we should do, we've got to go to fucking Carlton next Saturday on the Carfield pitch. Not really is, but in the end, Carlton bottled it on the Tuesday night against Leek, and they lost on penalties. And as I said, we beat Sheffield on the Tuesday night in front of, I think it was just under 2,000 on a Tuesday night at Ilkeston, and then League finished 5th, so we had the home tie on the Saturday, and I think there was just short of 4,000 on the final, and I scored that trick in the semis, and then I scored what would have been the second goal of the 2-0 victory at League. And just that experience in itself is by hands down the best experience of and season of my life. It was just surreal, and even for the people of Ilkeston, it was just for them to have a football team back again. To get promoted was unreal.
Like I said, that short time I had at Ilkeston, mate, honestly, the fans, brilliant.
Oh,
I mean? Passionate. They treat it like a little Man City, don't they? They're just, everything about the club was unbelievable. And like you say, Cliffy, Dave, Andy Nelly, Gandhi, I've got to tip the hat to them. Honestly, they've been brilliant. And like you say, Cliffy will only do well at Baseford. He'll only take his model, what he's got in his brain, straight to Baseford. So, you've got to give massive credit. What was Kevin Wilson like then as a manager?
Kev at the time, it probably took me a good 2-3 months to suss him out, because he demanded so much from his strikers with him being an ex-striker himself. And there'll be times where he'd be so harsh with me and Rico. If we didn't win a game, it was a striker's fault. No matter what happened in the game, it was a striker's fault. And there was a little bit of tough love in that. But at the same time, he was always approachable. And there was a few times where we had disagreements, but I was getting to that age now where, if Kevin had a go at me when I was 21, I might have chirped back. But it got to, at that time, I was 25, 26. I was starting to mature a little bit, and I would go and have chats with him before training, this, that, and the other. And as I said, that the professionalism of himself, he would get he'd record all the games, and I would go in before training, and he'd be like, right, look, can you see what I'm talking about in terms of getting your body in and, you know, being on the shoulder, and he could actually analytically look at stuff. And that, to me, I'd never had that from any gaffer. So he sort of just changed how I played, you know, because I've always been notoriously known for being a quick player. So I was always on the shoulder. Weren't really interested in getting anything to feet. Clip it in the channel. No one's going to catch me. I'm going to get in a way, and that bit. But when I got to Ilkeston, that's where I feel like I really transformed my game in terms of being able to understand how to get hold of it. You know, I used to hate heading the ball. I'm fairly decent in the air from playing with Rico. So I just learned so much from Kev and playing with Gary. And getting the protection from Gary as well, because he was an absolute beast. But yeah, Kev was brilliant. And as I said to you, with Cass as well, working alongside them two, you know, the wealth of knowledge that they had. And it wasn't even massive tweaks. It was just a case of making me understand how to use my body more effectively.
But more consistently, innit? More consistently as well.
100%, yeah. And as I said to you, like, you know, completely transformed my game, because after Ilkeston, you know, I played in a different way, and it wasn't just a case of, right, if you play deep, you nullify DT because he's got nowhere to run in behind. Well, if you do that now, I know how to get on the ball. I know how to bring other players into play. So yeah, it was a great year and a half until he told me that I weren't good enough to play in the league above, and then we had a bit of a disagreement and I left. But that was probably my biggest disappointment throughout my career, is the way it ended with Ilkeston, because for me, I absolutely love the club. I was the biggest advocate for it. I love the fans. Even now, I've still got a good rapport with the Ilkeston fans. I'll always support them from afar, even though they're in the same league as us. And at the time, I got promoted. I'd scored a lot of goals. I think I got. I don't think I got the right end of the stick. That we did really well in the FA Trophy and the FA Cup. So every weekend we was playing FA Cup, FA Trophy, and I was scoring goals in the FA Cup, FA Trophy, because that was the games that were being played. But then I hadn't registered a league goal, and then Kev just randomly, you know, took me to Fylde away, made us book the day off work, we stayed over, named the squad, I went in the squad. I was like, I'm just, what's going on? He was like, we'll talk after the game. So it was just like, you know, we need to find a balance of strikers scoring goals. And I'm sat there on the coach with 7 goals this season as a top goal scorer. I'm like, Kev, I'm struggling to work out what you're talking about. It's like, well, you've only scored against sides from the league above, the league below, sorry. And I was like, with the greatest respect, you know, we played more cup games than we had league games. So that's when I thought, well, the energy is shifting a little bit differently, and he brought different strikers in. I think at one stage we had 5 strikers, and I started. It was taking me to games because we was contracted, and I weren't in the squad. And in the end, I just said to him, Kev, just be honest with me. Like, I've got no interest in traveling to Ashton on a Tuesday night and having to take time off work to sit in the stands. Like, if I'm not wanted or you don't think I'm good enough, just let me go, and I'll find another club. And in the end, that's what happened. But you know, I still believed at the time, myself and Gary Ricketts was our best front two, and that's no disrespect to the other strikers that were there, because you know, it was weird, because all five of the strikers were really close off the field, so it was all good mates, and it weren't a case of, right, you're playing and, you know, I've got a bit of animosity for you. We all wanted each other to do well, but I think Kev jumped the gun a little bit, and he didn't really give me an opportunity to see myself in that league with Ilkeston. And it ended abruptly, because like I said, I didn't get a chance to sort of say goodbye to the Ilkeston fans. It was just a case of, right, I need to find a club. We've got your club. They'll pay your contract till the end of the season. And I ended up going to back to Belper under Pete Duffield. But that was just a disaster. My head was gone there, and that was just a waste of 6 months. Didn't really play. Couldn't really be asked to play. I was just getting paid, going every Saturday, getting paid, and going home.
So was that like half of your attitude, half of their attitude, or was it just?
It was.
Was you still a bit angry because of what Kev said? Do you know what I mean? Was that
I think there was a subconscious there. I think there was a little bit of that. You know, I was pissed off that I felt like I should be playing for Ilkeston every week. Got to Belper. It was doing it, but we ended up finishing the playoffs. But I weren't enjoying it. And as I said, when I'm not enjoying it, you can see my whole body language and demeanor and attitude is different to when I'm enjoying it. So, looking back at it, there was probably a bit of that Pete and Mick had picked up on, and they just thought, well, if he's not enjoying it, he's not going to score goals, so we weren't playing. But he's on contract, so I ended up just sort of tossing off that last half of the season, and then at the end of the season, I left Belper, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, because I looked at it and I thought, I'm in danger of not being a journeyman, but I didn't want to get to a point where I was exhausting every single club within the East Midlands just to stay at that level. And I've always been a striker that I'm always happiest when I've got the full backing of the manager. Where, if he says, right, you're my main guy, you're my go-to guy for goals, that's when I flourish. That's when I'll always been. So if I don't get that from a gaffer, then it's not really for me. And after what did I go after Belper? I signed for Matlock. That's when one of my good friends, Lavelle White, at the time was at Matlock the season before, and he just sort of put me in contact with Mark Atco. We had a chat. He'd obviously known about me from my time at Ilkeston and Belper, etc. And we just had an honest conversation. He said that they're looking to bring a couple of strikers in. They just signed Danny Holland, who I knew and respected throughout the non-league. I played against Danny when Danny was at Eastwood, when Rob Young took over Eastwood back in the day, and they were having a right go through the leagues. And Danny was he's one of the best natural goal scorers I've ever played against and with. The characters as well. Wow, one of the funniest people I've ever come across. So Matlock just seemed like it wasn't too far from Nottingham, and obviously I had Lavelle that we travelled in with, and that was the biggest one for Matlock. It was in the same league as Ilkeston, and that was my biggest drive. Was that right? Well, Kev's told me I can't play at this level, or I'm going to go and sign for local rivals, and we'll see what I'm about. And I think by Christmas I'd scored 10 goals, so we played Ilkeston at home, and I saw Kev, and I didn't say anything to him. I just walked past him because I was that heated for the game, and we ended up winning the game 1-0. But yeah, it was just it was.
What was your reception like with the?
It was just like not a middle finger of like a fuck you to Kev, but it was, well, you said I wasn't good enough. Well, I'm playing for some rivals, and I've got 10 by Christmas. So that was good for me, the move to Matlock, because I've never ever doubted my ability, but I've always one where I never shirk a challenge, and that was a challenge for myself that I wanted to pass, and I did. And I think in the end of that season, I think we just missed out on the playoffs at Matlock. But I don't think at the time we was expected to get anywhere near the playoffs. But yeah, we had a good competitive side, and as I said, another great club that I played for. Another, and they're flying at the moment. The scenery, if anything, at Matlock, the ground is
brilliant.
You don't get many of them. I remember playing I think it was Rosendale, and that's got similar backdrops to the ground where you got certain grounds where you never forget it. And Matlock's definitely one of those grounds, but the fan base as well. They always had a good following, and even tonight, I'm just pleased to see that they're top of the Prem, Evo Prem at the moment in the flying. So yeah, I had a good year there. But then from Matlock.
So from Matlock, then did you kick yourself a little bit then? Because you kind of tossed it off a little bit at Belper. Did you ever look back and think, what, should I have done that? Because Kev must have been. Would he have rubbed his hand and gone, I've got it right, actually? But then obviously it's come back a couple of years.
I don't think he was bothered. I don't think he would look back at it and say, I might have dropped one there with Daryll, because I just think that's the type of person He is that. One thing I knew with Kev is Kev was always right. Whether it was wrong, it was always right. And
Yeah, I do know Kev. Yeah,
yeah, we butt heads a little bit, but I don't think he was bothered. I wasn't particularly bothered as well. And I've always said throughout my career, if I ever got the opportunity, and I said it to Kev, you know, obviously the first time I saw him, I didn't speak to him, but I've spoke to him many a time since then. And I always said to him, and I've always said that if I ever had the opportunity to go back and play for Ilkeston, like, I would go and play for free, because I know what the club is about, and I know, you know, I've got that rapport with the fans. But there wasn't no ill feeling. I said that to him when we agreed that I was leaving. I said, we'll just shake hands, because the one thing I've learned over the years, is you never burn bridges with gaffers, or you never burn bridges with football clubs. You never slag clubs off, because it does come full circle, and it can stitch you. You know, I've got loads of mates in non-league football where they burnt that many bridges. They're running out of clubs they can play for, because they've said certain things or had certain actions with gaffers. So I've never really, even when I've left clubs, I've never left the club on bad terms. But yeah, that 6 months was just my head was a shed, to be honest with you. You know, I had other things going on as well. I was doing, I had a job. I was doing nightclub promotion as well in Nottingham. So my head wasn't really where football was the be all and end all. I had loads of other different things that was happening. So football was just
more focused on other things, like
it was just what it was. And then Matlock sort of got my focus back on football a little bit. But then I ended up moving to London for 2.5 years. So that was probably where the biggest change of my non-league career happened, because I moved to London, didn't have a club, ended up signing for Slough Town. One of my mates, James Jepson, sort of put me in contact with Bates and John Underwood, who are still gaffers there now. I did a couple of weeks before the season started training, ended up signing, ended up playing, doing well. But Southern football, it's just not for me. I'm used to battle. I'm used to getting in people's faces and this that, and the other. And I went to Slough, and they're getting the ball and they're playing across the back line. It's going into the defenders, this that, and the other. I'm making runs, and it just wasn't my sort of football. And the banter down there is dead as well. Like, I just didn't. Yeah, it's crap, mate. You know, they're very clicky down. There was very clicky down there. There was a few guys that, you know, got on well with, but, you know, it wasn't a case of it wasn't what I was used to. Whenever I was at a club, after the game, everyone would stay and have a drink together, or everyone would socialise. Where down there, it was just literally go football, done, everyone goes home. And in the end, it's sort of, I think I went to Truro away on a Saturday, and I didn't even know where Truro was at the time, but we met at 8 o'clock for a 3 o'clock kickoff. So I was like, right, Truro away on the Saturday. Then we did Poole away on the Tuesday night. I didn't know where Poole was at the time, but after that, I said, it's not for me. Not for me. Doing too much travel, not really enjoying it. So I stopped playing for a few months, and then one of my friends, Jay Maguire and Lee Morris, Mozza, who used to play for Derby County, they had the Loughborough Dynamo job at the time. So they just said to me, DT, we come and do as a job. You come and play for us for the last part of the season. And I was just honest with him. I said, well, I'm living in London, so if you're happy for me to travel back on Saturdays and play, I'm more than happy to travel back. So I ended up dropping in and playing for Loughborough for a season and a bit. Again, great club. Not the biggest fan base, beautiful pitch. It was just a nice set of lads. We weren't very good, I'll be honest with you. We weren't the best side. It was like, I think we won about 5 or 6 games in the half a season. But yeah, it was nice to play football. But it sort of killed me, because from there, I sort of dropped out of. I weren't training, which at the time I didn't realise how much of an effect it would have on my body. And, you know, just working and eating and then playing on a Saturday, you know, I started to lose a bit of my sharpness and a bit of my dynamic pace. And then work got a lot busier. And then I just dropped out of step 4 football for 2 or 3 years. And it was tough for me, because I've always played at a good level, and that's not to disrespect playing at, I think I was playing at step 6 and step 7 for a few years. Don't get me wrong, I was enjoying my football, but it wasn't. I sort of, I felt like I was a bit of a hypocrite in the fact that I was always wanting to challenge and always wanting to play at the highest level, and I dropped out of that scene, and then the phone wasn't ringing, so to speak, and it wasn't a case of, if I'd left Matlock or Loughborough, I knew I could ring 5 or 6 teams and just say, right, I'm available. Are you looking for a striker? And I had a bit of weight behind me at the time, whereas 2-3 years out of in the wilderness a little bit, the phone wasn't ringing. So when I got to about 31, I was just thinking about sacking it, because the worst thing that I couldn't get my head around was I was playing against shit teams, against shit players who I know locally, and it was all chirping. And one thing I couldn't deal with is rubbish players chirping, telling me how crap I am at football, when the worst level I've ever played at is the best level that they've ever played at. So my head was just rolling all the time, and I don't even know how I fell into it, but I ended up going back home, which is Dunkirk. Right. And one of my friends, Tom Madison, he's similar. He played step 4 the majority of his career, and he ended up playing at Dunkirk. And just by chance, I'd seen him on Snapchat a few times, and it looked like, change room was bouncing, looked like they was having a good crack. And I spoke to, in the summer, I ended up messaging him, said, "Oh, do you reckon can you give me the gaffer's number at Dunkirk, see if I can come down and do pre-season?" And I don't know if do you know Jimmy Albans? Jimmy Albans used to be old Grantham manager. So Jimmy Albans was manager with Craig Clark and Dave Robinson. I just went down, and from the first training session, it was hard, but it was a laugh. And I thought, I'd rather play somewhere where I know I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to have a laugh than not play at all. So I ended up signing for Dunkirk that season, and we ended up winning the league that year, and getting promoted from step 6, I think it was, to step 5. But that season there, just going in, a lot of the lads were younger lads, 18, 19. There was myself, probably 2 or 3 others that were 30 plus. So we had a great mix of youth and experience. And from the first training session to the last session, it was just constant belly laughing. But at the same time, we was a good football side, and we ended up winning the league. And although it's, I always say it was step 6, but winning trophies and winning stuff, whether it's the Premier League or step 6, it's always good to be successful in whatever you do. So really look.
So did you still have your pace then at 31, or did you have to adapt to a different style of your play?
Pace is gone, mate. Pace is gone. So that's so I didn't. I noticed the pace was going when I just left Loughborough, and I hadn't played. I hadn't played for 6 months, and then I was like, "Fucking hell!" Normally it's channels, DT, get after it, gone. Nice channels, and I'm having to get hold of it and hold it up. So when I started jumping into the step 6 football, that's when I realised, I need to sort of have a look at changing my game a little bit here, because and even like now, I'm at training with the lads, and even the last couple of years at Carlton, and I say to the lads, listen, you lot don't realise how much of a joke I was, how quick I was, and some of them laugh because they just can't see it. And I said, honestly, and I say to Borley, tell these lot how quick I was, and they're like, honestly, like you don't catch him. Our game plan was literally get anything in behind and it's gone, and it's a goal. So I sort of had to adapt my game in the fact that, now I had to sort of get hold of it more. I had to be a bit more of an aerial threat. I had to use my noggin. But as I said, at that age of 30, 31, from all the managers and all the football I played at, and that level being as crap as it was, I just adapted well. But it was enjoyable. And then I ended up getting back to Carlton. Is I went one of my mates, Trigger, Gav Hurren, who's a Bromsgrove manager now. He was manager at Gresley, and he asked me to come down and be a player coach for Gresley. This would have been 3 years ago. Went down to Gresley, was a bit of a shit show, to be honest with you. Did a pre-season, didn't really have a budget. You know, he was from Birmingham, I was from Nottingham. Gresley's in Swadlincote, right smack bang in the middle of both. So play recruitment wasn't great. Had a bad start to the season, and Trigger ended up resigning 4 games into the season. So I was just like, where does that leave me? Like, you've literally took me away from Dunkirk, where I was enjoying it, to coming out in higher league, and you've left. And at the time as well, I was just getting married. So I just said to my wife, I'm just gonna leave football alone. I've told Gracie I'm leaving. Let's go away, get married, go on a honeymoon. Let's enjoy it. Let's go enjoy that. And then when I get back out, if I want to play football, I'll have a look. And Martin Ball, who's playing at Carlton now, he just Tommy and Mark Harvey just got the Carlton job that summer. And I hadn't spoke to Tommy, and it was quite funny because in that summer before Tommy got the job, they had a Carlton Town reunion, and we had a good chat with Tommy. And Tommy was saying, "Well, what are you doing now, Daz, football wise?" And I was like, "Oh, I might be going Gres there." I said, "But you know, if you could help me out, wink, wink, nudge, nudge." And he didn't really pay no mind to it. So when I saw Borley, I said, "How's Carlton?" And he said, "You know what, DT said, I just enjoy it so much." He said, like, just being back with the gaffer has got my buzz back for football again. Because Borley was similar to me. He was playing for a couple of step 6 sides. We played together, and he was just like, "I'm just doing it just to get out of the house. I'm not really enjoying it." So just randomly, I messaged Tommy and just told him where I was at. I was like, you know, I'm thinking of, I want to be involved. I spoke to Borley, he said how much he really likes it. I said, you know, if there's any opportunity I can be to come back to Carlton and be involved, whether that's, you know, as a player coach or, you know, as a sub, whatever the capacity is, I said, I don't want no money. You don't have to pay me anything. I just want to be back in amongst it at a decent standard. So I ended up going back in October 2019. Initially as player coach, and I just, you know, we've got the 2 strikers that were there then are still contracted with Carlton now, and you know, Aaron Opoku and Tyler Blake, absolutely flying younger lads, you know, 23, both 23, 22, 23, and I was just sort of just said to them, you know, lean on me for any experience. You know, we're all still quite close now, and you know, I think I surprised Tommy, to be honest with you, because Tommy knew me as Daz, lad, cocky. You know, he's going to come in and he's going to, you know, just take over the dressing room, his banter and this and the other. And I came back, and obviously I just had I had a 1-year-old, so I just really matured in regards to my whole demeanour. And I just saw it as the biggest thing for me was it was a challenge for myself, because, as I said, I've been in the wilderness for 3 years. So I wanted to kind of gain Tommy and Mark's trust that I can still play. But then also for myself, like, can I still hold my own at the level I've always played at, being away for 3-4 years? And yeah, it took time. I won't, like, you know, there was loads of times where it was frustrating, where I weren't getting minutes, but my body wasn't in a state to be able to play regularly at that level, which I then recognised myself and sorted. And yeah, I ended up playing bits and bobs the season, not last season where lockdown, where the season finished in March. I think we was in the playoffs, and we was flying, to be fair. Got a few minutes there. And then, yeah, that's pretty much where I've been since. I've been at Carlton now. Which would have been our 3rd season, but the last 2 seasons have been stopped due to the pandemic. But yeah, here I am now.
It's good though, mate, because I like that. What type of coach are you then? Are you an hands-on coach and get involved in the training, or are you one of these people where you just handpick people out and have a little quiet chat with them, or do you do a bit of both?
I think this is one of the reasons that initially I got appointed head coach in the summer, and I didn't ask to be. And I asked Tommy, I said, "Is this the first steps of you retiring me?" And he started laughing and said, "No." But since then I've not played, so subconsciously he knew he was retiring me, and he's just stitched me and he's not even told me. But I've always been, because I've always played, I'm joining training sessions, you know. Not so much now, I'll join in if we're playing a game or at the end of it, but I'm not one where I will pick individuals out. You know, my biggest challenge I've had over the last 18 months is that because I was a player coach, I was one of the lads. So now having to make that transition from being a player and one of the lads to seen as management, that has been difficult for me, because there's been times where, you know, I've been sat around conversations by the players, and I'm just like, I need to remove myself here, because if I hear this, I've got, you know, I can't sometimes not act on it. So that's been my biggest challenge. But I think one of my biggest strengths as coach is that I would like to think all the lads know that they can come to me with anything if they need to talk about anything. You know, I'm a people person. My job's recruitment. That's all I do. I speak to people. You know, I know that I can bollock certain people and they won't get upset. And I know that with others, it takes just a quiet word or a WhatsApp message or a phone call privately to speak to them to have a similar conversation. So it's been good for me, because Tommy and Mark, the old school, I would say that what we typically say is old school managers. Tommy's just bang, gets people riled up. He'll get you running through a brick wall for him. Mark's a bit more reserved, but he'll have conversations with us that not necessarily everybody hears, that makes a lot of sense. So they're quite a unique tag team. So for me, as a coach, you know, I've always, you know, eventually I will hopefully fall into management. So for me, it's just about listening and learning from them. You know, I've over the last year, especially through the pandemic, in terms of, you know, player recruitment, sorting training, pre-season, you don't see the shit that managers have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I asked Tommy, there's a running joke, Tommy has 2 or 3 holidays a year where he misses a few games. And I understand it now. I've always hammered him for it throughout my whole career, having holidays, but I understand it now, because it's just you know, people don't see you going to Starbridge on a Monday night to go and watch them because they got them on the FA Cup on a Saturday. They don't see you at training at 6 o'clock, organise a session, make sure the equipment, everything's sorted. You know, they don't see you, you know, speak to the secretary to make sure that they don't see that. All they see is they're going to put off one on a Saturday. You pick a side, you go out, you win and you lose, and that's not it. So it's opened my eyes quite a lot in terms of what to hopefully expect in the future. But I'm still learning. Like I said, I'm 35. So I've still got things to learn.
If just say, for example, a step 6 club come in for you as a manager, would you be confident enough to take it on board right now and say, look, let's go for it?
Nah. No.
As in what? I'm saying you've got the confidence to do it, or would you just want to learn your trade a couple of more years?
Yeah, I mean, I want a bit of both. If say, for instance, Carlton got rid of me and nobody else wanted me, and the step 6 side said, right, DT want you to come and manage, I'd back myself to go in and do a decent job. But for my own personal development of what I want to do in terms of coaching, because I always believe you need to have experience before you go into stuff. If you go into stuff blind, when things go wrong, you've got nothing to fall back on if you've not experienced it. So for me, you know, I've always said for the next couple of years at least, I mean, I said I'm 35, I'm still relatively young as a coach or even a player. And even with me announcing that I'm retiring, you know, since I've announced that I'm retiring at the end of the season, I spoke to a lot of people and they've said to me, you know, are you sure? Because you spend way more time not playing football than you do playing football. And that's that, you know, I'd be a liar if I said that that's not resonated with me a little bit. And, you know, I'm just trying to get for, you know, at the moment, Carlton, we're doing well, just outside the playoffs. You know, I've said to both the management, you know, I've said to them, to be fair, throughout the whole of the season, I want to play. I've never once said to them, I don't fancy today, or it's a bit too cold today, or I don't want to play. I've always said I want to play, but I understand with my role and with having 2 or 3 contracted strikers that my time is going to be limited. And I've just said, I had an honest conversation, because it got to a point before Christmas where it was starting to piss me off that if I was on the bench, I wasn't coming on, or if there was 17 people available, I would be the one that was left out, because it's just easy because I'm first team coach. And I just said, rather than me coming to football and being annoyed and being pissed off because I'm not selected or not getting in the games. If you don't see me playing or you don't see me as a viable option to use, then I'll just stay registered and use me as emergencies only. And that's what we agreed on. I'll have to, I'll sit down in summer, because I've just had my third child, who's 2 months old. So I've got other things outside of football that I need to consider. But I don't know. I've said I'll retire, and I'll get hammered for it on Twitter for me saying that I'm going to retire. And people said I've heard you say 3 or 4 times to retire. But if it don't feel right, and I still feel like I can play, whether that's at Carlton or not, and somebody offers me a chance to play regularly, I don't know. I'll sit down and I'll have a think about it, because I've been playing Sundays this season because I've not been playing Saturdays, and I still love playing football. I play football with my mates on a Monday. I love playing football. So I don't know. I've got so much love for Carlton Town and the management team that I want to stay. I'll be lying if I say I don't want to be a part of Carlton Town set up. But at the same time,
Tommy and Mark are good people, aren't they? Good lads.
100%.
Good people, mate.
I've done so. Tommy's done so much for me on a personal level over the years as well, outside of football. And I know Tommy a lot better than I do Mark, and even away from football, his wife too. I've known for years. I mean, Tommy. When I was at Carlton the first time, Tommy used to invite my mum and dad out on team nights out when I was out with the boys. So. Tom's known my mum and dad since he was at school. So Tommy's and his family, a good family friends. So it's one of them ones where I think sensibly it would be more sensible for me, whilst I'm with Tom, just to stick with him, get a bit more hands-on this season, which I have done, to be fair. It's given me a lot more responsibility in terms of, organising training, setting sessions up, working on stuff. It involves me a lot more now in terms of team selection and squads, etc. So I almost feel like assistant manager to Mark and Tommy, which is great. And that's what I hopefully will continue to sort of blossom. And then at the end of that, when they're ready to retire, I'd love to be sort of have my name in the hat for the Carlton Town job, because naturally I think that would be the easiest and natural step for the club and myself. Not to say that that's, I'm not naive, I'm not, expecting that, but I would like to think I'd position myself in a fairly decent position to eventually become gaffer one day. Whether I'd be ready is a different story, but, I'm doing things outside, and now starting to think, if I do retire, I've started going to Forest Academy. I'm going to be going to Forest Academy, start shadowing a few of the sessions down there with the few coaches that I know. Got a few coaching courses that I've sort of enrolled for, but it's just time. A lot of it is, it's not my full-time job, and I've got my own business that takes up a lot of time, as well as my family. So there's only so much you can do to a certain point. But I'm excited. The one door closes, another opens, don't it? So
definitely. So what's the WhatsApp like group in Carlton? Is it dead? Is
ruthless? I'm admin, so if you piss me off, you're out. I give you.
Oh God,
to be fair,
I like that. 3 strikes and you've gone, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. There's a few characters in the WhatsApp group, and to be fair, not 9 out of 10, it's the lads hammering the gaffer with pictures of Hasbullah, the little Russian kid. Says that looks like Tommy. So it's not bad, to be fair. And as I said, with the current group, there's no real eggs in the squad as well. Everyone has a laugh together, and it gets lively. It's not too bad. It's not the worst I've been in. It's not the worst.
Who's got the best banter?
Best banter. Do you know what? I'm gonna give the crown. Obviously, I can't. I'll probably say myself, but if it's not me, I'd say. Oh, that's a good one. Do you know the funniest person I think at Carlton Town is Jared Holmes. He's got a very dry sense of humour, but he makes me roll. Every time I speak to him, I'm just laughing, because he's either taking the piss or he's just hammering someone. But he hammers people in such a polite way sometimes. It absolutely makes tickle. It's either, I say Jazzy or Toby Moore. funny guy, young centre half, got good banter to him. Yeah, I like to. So I'll give him.
Who's
Give him the
who's got the worst banter?
Oh, the worst banter. Daniel Fletcher, absolute boring, mate. He's 30. He's a year younger than me. To be fair, play 34. He's been at Carlton with me the first time. He just moans. He moans
Constant,
about everything. Comes to training, moans. Gets fined for dirty boots, moans. All he does is just moan. He's got no banter about him. But to be fair, back in the day, Fletch used to have a bit of banter. I don't know. It must have been kids and marriage probably. Must have sucked it all out of him because he's dry as fuck.
Who's got the worst clobber?
Jared. Oh my goodness.
Is it?
Jared Holmes. He literally I had a team night out before Christmas and he come out looking like can you remember Darius from X Factor?
Yeah.
Oh mate. He had some steak bait, Cornish pasty shoes on. Honking, definitely jazzy. Can't have it. Nah, not having it.
Who's the best trainer?
Best trainer. Great question. The best trainer I'm going to say is Niall Davey. Very, very good. Very good on 1G. We don't even call it 4G. It's 1G. It got laid about 20 years ago. It's never been done since. Like concrete.
Like a tennis court. But
yeah.
Whatever. Oh, awful. Who's the worst trainer?
Martin Ball.
Really?
Awful.
But then just comes alive in games.
Yeah, that's it. Because he's 35 now, innit? He's just had his knee up, to be fair, so it might be a bit harsh, but yeah, I'm just gonna say Bally.
That's quality. 100%. Right, there's a few questions that have just come from any random people. Who's the best manager? The best manager that you played under?
Oh, best gaffer. Kev Wilson.
Kev Wilson, yeah. The worst manager.
To be fair, there's some managers I can't even remember the names, but from the names I can remember, the worst for me was Pete Duffield, just because really? I just didn't get him, and I think sometimes he's tried to rile me up to get a reaction, but that's not what I wanted at the time. Yeah. It didn't really do anything for me. Yeah.
Who your best night out?
Best night out, Jesus. Liverpool 2008, Carlton Town.
And can you say anything more, or you might get people in trouble?
Yeah, not really, no.
Just a good night.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we played Camel Lade away, and Tommy was away on holiday, shock. So his assistant manager, Nerney, took charge. But we said, should we just go out in Liverpool? And he's on the way there. You lot talk about that. Listen, if I hear one more word about this night out, you're all getting fined. I was like, yeah, no. I scored first minute. Yeah, lads are on it. Ended up getting beat 4-1.
Ooh.
Nerney's fuming because the lads are just talking about this night out at half time. After the game, his head's gone. So we ended up driving. So we get to Liverpool and we booked hotels, but the hotels are cancelled on us during the game. So now we're in Liverpool with no hotels. So we ended up driving through Liverpool, and then one of our mates just sees this B&B across the road from the crowd at Camel Lade. So he goes across the road. He's like, hey, have you got any room spare? And she was like, how many is there of you? And I said, oh, there's 9 of us. And she was like, right, let me just squeeze it. She's squeezing beds in, and we was going to pay like £70 a room. And it was, how much? She was like, oh, if there's 9 of you, just give 90 quid. And we was like,
oh, wow.
90 quid. Straight in this B&B. It was like five to a room. My mate Aiden had a minibus, so he drove us up there, and he was like, "Oh, I'll drive us back." I had a wicked night. We went out in news bar, which it would have been old news bar. Went out there, we're all smart. Everyone's like, "Oh, who are you?" I think Liverpool had played Birmingham City at the time. So like, "Oh, yeah, are you the lads from Birmingham City?" I was like, "Yeah." Straight upstairs to VIP. I was
Brilliant.
like, at the time, I was just like, "Right, get a bottle of Moe." Moe's like 60 quid. I'm buying Moe. It's just chaos.
Brilliant.
Get chaos all night. But yeah, it was great. And that's as much as I can tell you for the story.
Well,
I don't want to get
that's what I'm
in
saying.
trouble.
I know. I don't want to get into it. Who's your best striking partner?
I knew he was going to ask that. Oh, my best strike partner, Steve Chaplin.
Oh,
And that's Steve Chaplin. And I played with Rico, and Rico, I feel a disservice to say not saying Rico, but Chapo, honestly, he is old school. And I'm going to say Chapo. I'm going to say Chapo because I played with him at Carlton, and he was just literally. I think when he signed for Carlton, he signed from a side called Limby that was like step 10 or something. And honestly, if you seen him as the person, you wouldn't think he played football, but the guy could edit. He just absolutely terrorized centre halves. And because I was quick, I just let him beat up centre halves, and then I would just get tap-ins off him. And then even to the point when I went back to Dunkirk the second time, when I was 30, Chapo was still playing at Dunkirk, and I think even then he'd scored I think Chapo would have been 37, scored 30 odd goals. He was just a freak of nature of a footballer, and I always look at strike partners where we've got that much of an understanding. We don't even need to talk to each other. We just know we just complemented each other so well. But yeah, I think Chapo because I played with him longer at different clubs, but Gary Ricketts as a centre forward, mate. I played against guys before, but the year and a half that I played with him, I felt untouchable because he was just literally at the age of, I think he was 38, 37, 38, and Gaz was the fittest man, shredded. I've never seen a 37-year-old man that's 6'5" with a 9-pack and the fittest man at pre-season. He was an absolute freak of nature. And
because with Gary Ricketts and a bit of Lavelle, really, when I was at Gresley, I messed up, mate, to be fair. I mean, I felt I got chucked under the bus with Ricketts. Yeah. I think he wanted the job, and I think the chairman was paying him. So I had this, I have to play him.
Yeah.
But I think he was 40, 41. And I needed someone like you with a bit of pace, and I needed to change it. So he was, I got the impression he was going to the chairman saying, "Who's this fucking..." I mean, he's probably a lovely bloke, you know what I mean? He probably really is. Just that at that time, I mean, I had 7 games there. I had 3 different keepers. It was just a disaster time for me. I mean, he is probably a really lovely lad, but that initial thing where I just thought, mate, I can't play. He didn't want to train. Understandable. He's 40, 41.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I've heard good things about him. So realistically, like I said, I don't know him on a personal level, but again, I do feel that what I've heard, a very good player, unbelievable to have in your team. He runs through brick walls, strong as an ox, and a bit like Lavelle. We didn't really see eye to eye at Gresley, but when I went to Wilkinston, what a top lad! What a brilliant lad! A great lad off it, great lad on it, good player. You know what I mean? I held my hands up and said, "Look, I got that wrong one," and we were sound. Since that day, mate, we've been bang on. Yeah. So I had to get that out there to be fair.
I'll let him know. I'll message Lavelle, tell him you top called him a wanker, really, off camera.
yeah. One of them ones is a white brick. Who was the loudest manager you played under?
Loudest? Pete Duffield.
Really?
Yeah. I used to say I had little man, angry little man. Everything was just an argument. Everything. To be fair, for the characters we had in the dressing room, though, it was a different environment for me because I've been used to playing with younger lads, and when I went to Retford, I played with Michael Simpkins, Simo, you know, Mick Godber, Ellie, Harves, you know, Fordy, and these are all ex-pros, and these are all been around the league. So the mentality and how they approach things is that it was a lot different to what I was expected. So they might, you know, I say to the lads now, you know, and a few of the lads say, oh, you know, back in my day when I was in the war, and I always say, you know, when I was playing football and I was a younger lad, sometimes you just have to shut your mouth. Even if you think you're right, you just have to shut your mouth and listen to what's being said, because somewhere in the rubbish, there's a bit of truth within that. So it's how you receive that information. And at the time, you know, I can remember one game I was playing Burscough away, and I'm playing. I'm not having the greatest game, but I can't really get into the game. And all I can hear is Daryll Thomas, Daryll Thomas, Daryll Thomas, Daryll Thomas. And literally every time I got the ball or got near the ball, it was just screaming my name. And in the end, I just ended up lost my head, took someone out, got a yellow card, and then I was just playing angry. But I scored a couple of goals before half time. And then he's like, and you? He said, yeah, it's tough for me to rile you up for you to start. And I just said to him, I said, Pete, don't talk to me. That if you think I'm going to give you props for pissing me off and winding me up for me to score a couple of goals, I said that's not that don't do anything for me. So it was a good guy, but yeah, he was just shouting all the time. Didn't like
3 questions left, Daryll. I know you're a busy man. 3 questions left. The best fans.
Ilkeston by hands down.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
If you had to take 3 players on a desert island, who would them 3 players be, and why?
Oh my God! What kind of a question is that on a desert island? Jesus,
mate, these are the freaky questions I get asked.
3 players on a desert island.
And why would you take them?
No. What kind of a question is that? 3 players on a desert island.
And this was a Facebook question. This was on Facebook.
I'd take Daniel Fletcher, just so he can bore me to death so I can sleep. I'll probably take Grant Brindley with me, just for a bit of banter, keep my spirits up. And who would the 3rd player be?
And this is all the players, by the way, that you've played with.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It's the question's thrown me. I'll be honest with you.
Mad, isn't it? Honestly, you only see my inbox. But honestly, my inbox is frightening, by the way.
Oh my God. And I'll probably take I just think off the cuff, Toby Moore, because he's fat and he's always eating, so he'd guarantee that he wouldn't starve and I'd get fed all the time.
Absolutely brilliant. Right, the last question, and this is a really popular one. If you had to have a charity boxing fight, who would you fight in football and why?
If I had to have a charity fight.
So obviously someone that you've not liked in your football career, who would you just like to get in the ring just for charity, give him a bit of a kick in?
Oh, who don't I like? That's a good question. That is a great question. You're asking me that now. Oh my God, that's done me.
Tough, innit? What about the coach at Hucknall?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. His name's Jamie Brough.
There you
He's probably a nice lad, but yeah, for the context of the question that we're asking, there's not many people I've got a genuine dislike to, but yeah, he would fit the bill. He'd probably batter me as well because he's an absolute meathead. He's about, mate, out here, absolute,
really?
One of them ones. My weak and bald head. He had a forest tattoo on his calf as well. Probably batter me, but I'd just smack him as hard as I can for as quick as I can.
Just hope for the best, yeah.
Yeah, just take a dive, first clip, get myself out, get paid. Done.
Absolutely brilliant, mate. Daryll, seriously, mate, absolute pleasure. It really has, mate. And just
taking the
again,
time
I
out for
really
it as
do.
well.
Thanks for your time. Really
No,
appreciate
take
it.
it. All right,
Top man, take care,
care.
Dal.
Thanks,